Hello, 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 friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers. And I finally got my hands on Titan's Return Trigger Happy. This guy. I swear. So, yeah, still haven't actually found this guy in a store. I ended up having to order him online, but hey, whatever gets the job done, right? So, yeah. Trigger Happy. He is definitely a neat toy. He is a neat figure. He has a neat alt mode. He's just all kinds of neat. Now, got his accessories on him because of a couple of things I want to go over in robot mode, but for now, just pop these off and go over the basics. He can sit right there. You hold tight, buddy. So I mentioned this in a previous video, but I really like what they've been doing with the Titan's Return weapons now, where they have these like dual guns that actually combine to make the big Titan Master seat thing. And yeah, it's just I prefer this. I prefer this vastly to just having one big gun with a seat in it, because when these are broken apart, you don't really have to worry about that. It's not as invasive, I guess, to the design as some of the other stuff. Anyway, I can put these off to the side and get to the figure proper. So, yeah, Trigger Happy is a pretty nifty looking sci-fi spaceship thing. I like the dark blue color. I am definitely a fan. I am also into the blue and gray combination that they've got going on here. And I like that there's these like little hints of both silver and copper in a few different places. Like running up along the sides of the cockpit, a little bit back here, these little tiny bits down the back here. And then of course the thrusters on the back of the vehicle mode. There's a little bit of like metallic-ish blue. Maybe not actually metallic, it's hard to tell, but like in the fins there. And then some stuff here. But yeah, for the most part, the paint that is on the vehicle mode is like just a little bit of the nose there. A little silver on the nose. The paint on the vehicle mode is kind of kept to a minimum, and I'm okay with that because I think it's just a really nice blue that they chose for the bulk of the color scheme, and I think it works out really well. Like just having these little accents here and there works quite well. And yeah, it's a nice kind of, it's a shape that sort of seems like it's homaging a few different sci-fi ships, like sci-fi fighter ships, but at the same time it's not obvious which one. Like it could be an X-Wing, could be something from Battlestar Galactica. You know, it's just It nails that like sci-fi spaceship thing, the sci-fi spaceship aesthetic, without getting too like blatant in what it's homaging, and I do dig that. And of course, it's got the giant guns sticking off the front, which are a little problematic in robot mode, but not too bad. And I also dig the forward swept wings. It's a nice overall shape to this ship, and the color scheme is nice, and all the little details are nice. There's, of course, being Titan's Return, some nice molded details in there as well, like various vents and whatnot. Not a ton in vehicle mode compared to some of the other figures, but that's alright. But then you also get a fair amount of molded detail on the underside, which is also pretty cool. And now let's take a look at the Titan Master. So pop this open, and I find it's actually easiest to get him in and out by breaking the little transformation joint there to pull the nose cone down, because then he can get to his feet. Just pull him up like that. And close that up again, close that up, and put him there. Now the Titan Master is regrettably devoid of paint, as they always are. I mean, it's not the end of the world, because it never is, but it is a little disappointing that they didn't at least like paint his face a little bit or something. I mean, they painted that face, obviously, but not, you know. I mean, it's better than, say, Sentinel Prime's Titan Master, because that thing is just like orange. Just a whole bunch of orange. No real color variation to it. But, yeah, it's just... It is a little bit of a shame, but then I can't complain too much because I do almost all of my displaying of these figures in either robot mode or vehicle mode with the robot in, like, driving the vehicle. So either way, you're not going to see the Titan Master that much. So, you know, it's not a huge problem, but it's a little disappointing. Still, some nice molded details on this guy. Because, again, there always are. And yeah, it's just Trigger Happy's vehicle is pretty cool. So I guess we're gonna do this and then move on to the transformation. So there's a little size comparison. I mean, he's a Titan's Return Deluxe. If you have one, you kind of have a general idea of what the size is. So anyway, let's get him into robot mode. And now we have Trigger Happy in his robot mode, and this is a very cool figure, I must admit. I mean, not that I doubted everyone else in existence ever talking about how this was one of the greatest figures to come out of 2016, but I wasn't entirely sure if I would agree. Truth be told, I'm still not 100% convinced that I would say that Trigger Happy is one of the greatest. Then again, I mean, you know, my experience of releases in 2016 was a bit limited, but he's definitely incredibly good. I don't know that I would necessarily call him my all-time favorite of 2016, but, you know, definitely a very solid figure. Very, very cool. Now, his robot mode's still a bunch of that gray and blue, but it's broken up a little bit more here, where you've got the gray in the feet, blue in the leg, or blue in the shins, back to gray for the thighs, mostly blue for the torso, gray for the biceps, blue for the forearms, gray for the hands. Like it staggers the color distribution pretty nicely. And then, of course, you've got that nice detail from the vehicle mode is now on his shins and his feet, which is quite nice. And then some of that nice cockpit detail actually ends up being chest detail, which is cool. And I like that transformation, how parts of the ship swing down and kind of bulk out his chest a bit. And yes, that whole, like, rotate this part 180 degrees and clip this in for the bottom, and how the cockpit kind of splits and becomes part of his stomach. Like, that's all very cool transformation stuff. I will 100% admit that. That is very cool. So yeah, I mean, he's neat. There's a bit of a kibble problem with his arms, but, you know, I think everyone's already talked that to death. He is just very cool, and I like how he cleans up to the point where he basically just has that little bit of a nose cone sticking off his back, and then, like, the wings do hang off his arms, and he's got the big guns on his arms, but it's passable, mostly because the wings are tinier, and these can actually be used in robot mode. You can just flip his fists back in and flip that out, and now he has a big gun arm, and that is cool. And actually, the whole reason why I wanted to mention the accessories is because the way I actually the way I actually like to display Trigger Happy is I put his, you know, hand in the gun mode, and then this can peg in right here, and it gives him this, like, enormous gun hand thing, which just, it's silly, but I really like the way that looks. So that's kind of how I have him displayed with both hands. Gonna undo that for now because this is mostly about the sort of default aesthetics. But that is an option, and I really like that option. I think it's cool. So yeah, he is a neat robot. I don't have any prior familiarity or attachment with the earlier version of Trigger Happy. I only know this Titan's Return version, and this is a solid robot. He's not like... The transformation is really interesting and cool, but there's not a whole lot to his shape that makes him particularly distinct to me. Like, Brainstorm, his look, his shape, especially his color scheme, is like very distinct to me. And Chrome Dome, his shape and his color scheme are very distinct to me. Twinferno, super duper distinct. It's just, with Trigger Happy, I mean, I suppose if I had more familiarity with the original figure, I might find him more distinct, but in this instance, he just seems a little, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but he just kind of has like a more generic robot look to him, which is fine, because it's a cool generic robot look, but there's not a lot of character to him, I don't think. Minus the big guns that are just pointing backwards off his forearms, but I don't really consider that character. Yeah, and I mean the face, while the face does look nice, but it's, again, it's sort of nondescript. It looks kind of like basically just I guess, like, generic clone of Optimus Prime almost. I mean, it's good coloring. I like the blue with the red faceplate and the tiny little yellow eyes in there that stand out a lot better than I would have thought they would, especially with that extremely protruded forehead. But yeah, it's just, it's just, he doesn't seem super duper distinct to me, which I don't think is necessarily the worst, but it's just a thing. Still, though, he is very cool. I really do like the look and the overall styling of him. It's just, again, just not anything that is just like, I could, like, if I looked at a silhouette of this guy, I probably wouldn't immediately think, oh, that's Trigger Happy. Just saying. But he is very cool. And he's got a little bit more molded detail just in like the waist and the hips. But most of it is the vehicle mode, and I do appreciate how they were able to get so much vehicle to be robot and not have like a bunch of kibble left over. That is very cool. But yeah, it's just, Trigger Happy is neat. I don't know that I'd necessarily call him my all-time favorite Titan's Return figure. I don't think I'd call him my favorite of 2016, but he is neat. I do definitely dig the overall look of him. And his vehicle mode is super nice. That is, I really do appreciate how that vehicle mode comes across. And the transformation is really cool too. Can't deny that transformation. But anyway, yeah, that is Titan's Return, Trigger Happy, and here is Samus, because I almost forgot to do a size comparison. And yeah, as I said before, typical Titan's Return Deluxe. But yeah, he is very cool. He's a pain in the butt to track down. I honestly don't think he'd be worth paying more than retail price for. I mean, maybe slightly more than retail, because that transformation is really neat, and he does end up being a pretty cool robot and have a pretty cool alt mode overall, but he's, he's not the be-all and end-all that I think a lot of people seem to think, and that's not to say that they're wrong for loving him. Just, for me, he's not the most amazing thing ever. It's really, really good. No denying that, but, you know, yeah, it's not bad. It sounds like I'm being down on him. I'm really not. He is really cool, but yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that, and yeah, before I talk myself further into a hole, I'm just going to leave it here. So, while I flip him into my preferred display mode, I will say that has been my look at Titan's Return Trigger Happy. He is a pretty neat fellow who has, a couple of little quirks, but he's neat overall. And I think I could see why people were at least somewhat excited about him. So, thank you everybody for watching. As per usual, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Any combination of those three would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art, even if it's ever so slightly overrated, is more than meets the eye.